The Secret Service prepares law enforcement from Illinois and beyond on what it calls a new threat. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley learns how the federal agency trains authorities for drones.
It's amazing, and at the same time, it's scary.
The U.S. Secret Service sets its sights on drones.
We've seen a significant increase in not only capabilities for drones, but also how they're being leveraged.
Days after a Russian drone attack killed 3 people in Ukraine, the federal law enforcement agency wants to prep local authorities.
One of the things that you're going to see come out of this is a lot of collaboration with other departments that maybe not had touch pointed before.
Around 130 officers joined from Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana for the briefing inside Chicago's Soldier Field. The Secret Service says the goal is to defend against 21st century threats.
That's something they need to take into consideration as they're doing their operational planning for public safety, is how to mitigate and leverage also the drone capability that they have.
At large events or gatherings, Special Agent Joel Heffernan suggests drones reduce officer response times.
And if we can, reduce that time through this capability, that's a win for everybody.
And for those worried about privacy, the agent raises safety as a higher priority.
You want to attend an event with your family and you want to feel like you're safe in a safe environment. But part of that is to ensure that we have coverage not only on the ground but above us as well.
In Chicago, Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
Heffernan adds he wasn't aware if Secret Service drones have been used in recent immigration raids. The agency falls under the Department of Homeland Security, which includes immigration control and enforcement.